Good morning. Good morning. Welcome, First Unitarian. Hi. It's so good to see y'all. Whether you're joining us online this morning or in person, we welcome you. And if you're joining us for the first time, we are so glad to have you here. I'm Jen Simon, and our call to worship today comes in the form of a poem by Naomi Shihab Nye entitled Gate A4. Wandering around the Albuquerque airport terminal after learning my flight had been delayed 4 hours, I heard an announcement. If anyone in the vicinity of Gate A4 understands any Arabic, please come to the gate immediately. Well, one pauses these days. Gate A4 was my own gate. I went there. An older woman in full traditional Palestinian embroidered dress, just like my grandma wore, was crumpled to the floor, wailing. "Help," said the flight agent. "Talk to her. What is her problem? We told her the flight was going to be late, and she did this." I stooped to put my arm around the woman and spoke haltingly. "Shudawa, shubiddak habibti, stani shway min fadlik, shubitsewi." The minute she heard any words she knew, however poorly used, she stopped crying. She thought the flight had been canceled entirely, and she needed to be in El Paso for major medical treatment the next day. I said, "No, we're fine. You'll get there just later. Who's picking you up? Let's call him." We called her son. I spoke with him in English. I told him I would stay with his mother till we got on the plane and ride next to her. She talked to him. Then we called her other sons just for the fun of it. Then we called my dad, and he and she spoke for a while in Arabic and found out, of course, that they had 10 shared friends. Then I thought, just for the heck of it, why not call some Palestinian poets I know and let them chat with her? This all took up 2 hours. She was laughing a lot by then, telling of her life, patting my knee, answering questions. She had pulled a sack of homemade mamul cookies, little powdered sugar crumbly mounds stuffed with dates and nuts, from her bag, and was offering them to all the women at the gate. To my amazement, not a single woman declined one. It was like a sacrament. The traveler from Argentina, the mom from California, the lovely woman from Laredo, we were all covered with the same powdered sugar and smiling. There is no better cookie. And then the airline broke out free apple juice from huge coolers, and 2 little girls from our flight ran around serving it, and they were covered with powdered sugar too. And I noticed my new best friend, by now we were holding hands, had a potted plant poking out of her bag, some medicinal thing with green furry leaves. Such an old country tradition. Always carry a plant, always stay rooted to somewhere. And I looked around that gate of late and weary ones, and I thought, this is the world I want to live in. The shared world. Not a single person in that gate, once the crying of confusion stopped, seemed apprehensive about any other person. They took the cookies. I wanted to hug all those other women too. This can still happen anywhere. Not everything is lost. So welcome to this place where community is joyfully created in love and justice.
Broke and ain't worth fixing. It's time to start all over in a new beginning. There's too much pain, too much suffering. Let's resolve to start all over in a new beginning. Now don't get me wrong, I love life and living. But when you wake up and look around at everything that's going down, it's all wrong. You see, we need to change it now, this world with too few happy endings. We can resolve to start all over and make a new beginning. Start all over. Start all over. Start all over. Start all over. The world is baroque in fragments and pieces that once were joined together in a unified whole. But now too many stand alone, there's too much separation. We can resolve to come together in the new beginning. Start all over. Start all over. Start all over. Start all over. We can break the cycle. We can break the chain. We can start all over in the new beginning. We can learn, we can teach, we can share the myths, the dream, the prayer, the notion that we can do better, change our lives and paths, create a new world. I want to start all over. Start all over. Start all over. Start all over. We need to make new symbols, make new signs, make a new language. With these we'll redefine the world and start all over. 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 Start all over.
Thank you so much. I have loved that song forever. So another song that I love is Do the Right Thing. Do the Right Thing. We've sung that here, or we've played it in the last 18 months, I'm sure of it. So maybe if you haven't heard, I'm just going to sing for you. This never happens. So do the right thing, do the right thing. Do it all the time, do it all the time. Make yourself right, never mind them. Don't you know you're not the only one suffering? Great. So if other folks hadn't heard it, now they've heard a little piece of it. So the right thing. The right things, maybe. Because maybe there's more than just one right thing to do. I've been told that doing the right thing won't always be easy. Have you heard that before? Maybe. I wonder if that means that the right thing has to be hard. Could there ever be things that are both right and easy? Gosh, I hope so. I've also heard that when people are learning that they can confuse the easy thing and the right thing, and I know that I have done that before. Identifying the right thing to do can be difficult and confusing, especially if we feel like we have to figure it out alone. But what if finding the right things means having a conversation with a friend, someone you trust, or a whole community of people who are trying to find the right things to do? If we make a mistake and we have to do the right thing, what are some right things that we could do? A specific example for you. If we take more than our share of Halloween candy from the Take One bowl, what are some right things to do? What if the bowl said, help yourself? What if the bowl had no note on it? In some cases, the right thing is an apology. And I wonder if you've ever apologized to a stranger and meant it. Not a sorry, excuse me kind of apology, but a real one where you named what you did and showed dedication to not doing that thing in the future because you know how it impacted them. That's a hard apology to a stranger, and it's the right thing to do. I think that there are ways that we can find the right things to do and find them to be easier and still right if we're in good relationship with the person or community receiving the right thing before we make a mistake. Apologizing to my friends, people I have laughed with and spent real time with is way easier for me. And having real relationships where we show up for each other in the mistakes, we listen to the impacts, and we find the right things together is one way that the right things might become more meaningful, long-lasting, and easier, and still right. So I'm here with you, trying to do the right things. When you are confused or when I am frustrated, we can work together and with our communities to identify the right things with love for all of our collective liberation and authentic wholeness. And when we make mistakes, we can try again, standing on the foundation of our friendships and relationships because we are connected to one another, finding the right things to do together. Have a great morning.
Hi, I'm Arnie, again from Giving in Action Committee, and it's my honor to introduce a real hero, Sarah Jackson from Casa de Paz.
I don't feel like a real hero today. I tried a new shade of sunscreen and I ordered a shade too light and I was like, that's fine, I'm gonna wear my mask today anyways. And then you told me I should take my mask off when I talk, so there we go. But thank you for the introduction. This is the first time I've actually been in a building in a long, long time, and when I was invited to come give an update about the Casa, I immediately said yes, because there are so many of y'all who are involved with providing, creating a welcoming community for immigrants that have just been released from the ICE detention center in Aurora, Colorado. So I actually have, I know I have 2 minutes, but I have good news and bad news to share with y'all. So which one do you want first? Bad. Yeah, that's what we all want. So last year at this time, the bad news is that only 1 or 2 immigrants were being released from the ICE Geo Detention Center in Aurora. 1 or 2 a week. Now for the good news. The good news is that right now at Casa de Paz, we are welcoming in about 20 immigrants per day who have been released from that detention center. Yes, we should be excited that more people are being released from immigrant detention. And so thank you for supporting the Casa, and also just want to use this as an opportunity to invite y'all to become part of our volunteer family. If you are not able to give financially today, totally understand that. If you have some extra time, we need people to help drive immigrants who've just been released from ICE to the airport, bring over meals. We need backpacks, used cell phones, winter coats. So there's, and we are accepting all language abilities. If you only speak English or you speak other languages, we invite you to be part of what we're doing. I was just looking at the numbers before today. In the past 9 years that we've been open, we've welcomed over 4,300 immigrants from 80 countries at Casa de Paz. And I forgot to bring my phone up, but I had a little thank you message from a guest. His name is Leonel. He stayed with us a couple weeks ago, and he just said, thank you so much for creating Casa de Paz. You have no idea how hard it is to leave your country, but to find a group that is so welcoming meant everything. So that's it. I think I went over 2 minutes. Thank you for having me, and hope you all have a good rest of your Sunday.
So you all know how to donate. There'd be a basket in the back for people that are here. People that are online, you can go to the website and click on, or sign in the Breeze account and click on Giving in Action. And thank you very much.
I can change the world with my own two hands, make a better place with my own two hands, make a kinder place with my own two hands, with my own two hands.
Good morning. I've been asked to remind you all that the next reparations conversation is today at 1 p.m. And there is, I believe, information on the website and also in the first announce. So just a reminder about that. Didn't have anything prepared today. I was sort of asked last minute to do the pastoral prayer, and so I am just going to talk about what's on my heart and just hold some of that up. This time of year is, in the pagan tradition, is the season of death and dying, which we all kind of know. In the fall, that's sort of the normal progress of things, and the changing of the seasons. And on Samhain or Halloween, the sun god passes into the next world. And so I'm just sort of being called to reflect a little bit on grief and loss. And I think yesterday, holding up, we celebrated the life of Tim Murphy and mourned his loss as well. So I just want to hold that up. And I just want to hold up that we have all experienced some form of loss over the last year and a half, whether that be just of our normalcy, our day-to-day, whether that be in the material world, jobs, finances, whether that be spiritually, personally, or experiencing the loss of some loved ones, which is really, really real. So that's sort of what's going on for me today. And so I just want to hold up and read a couple of things. This is from Ram Dass. Grief is not an event, but a process. It is as individual as each of us and as unique as the person or thing that we have lost. If you don't grieve fully in a way that is true to your own heart, you may end up with cynicism about life and fear of future involvement, fear of any risk. Be kind to yourself. When it is time to let go, you'll know. Then let go. The memories will still be there without the attachment. It's not about returning to normal, but becoming someone new, free to be present for whatever your life is now. This is from Pema Chodron. To be fully alive, fully human, and completely awake is to be continually thrown out of the nest. To live fully is to be always in no man's land, to experience each moment as completely new and fresh. To live is to be willing to die over and over again. This is from Pinterest. The wise spiritual sage of Pinterest. Take a moment, allow yourself to remember what happened to you. Let it out, let it consume you. Allow yourself to feel the immense wave of grief wash over you. Drown in it for a moment, feel the sob in your chest, the pain roll down your cheeks, the ache of memories. Then calm yourself, breathe. Take comfort in all that you have, but always allow yourself a moment to remember. And then finally from Rupi, what is stronger than the human heart, which shatters over and over again and still lives? Amen.
So, earlier I told you the story of Naomi Shihab and the airport. In reading that story, what stood out for you? For me, and if you know me, it'll be no surprise, it was her emphasis on the cookies. But it was about the way that the giving and the accepting of this small gift of food resulted in the forming of joyful, albeit brief, community. It was like a sacrament, she says, a holy act. How the act of serving apple juice created joy, and how relationship was formed with the Palestinian woman through the act of physical touch. Now lately, First Unitarian has been discussing a proposal for a major reparations project, raising funds to be given back to local Black communities. The proposal for this reparations effort at First Unitarian makes a very astute observation. It says, historically, American Protestant theology has glorified white/European culture and individualism and suppressed the ethos and collectivist values of Black and African peoples. Our UU tradition has, until now, been grounded far too often in what we individually, intellectually believe. In Dr. Martin Luther King's vision of the beloved community, he laid out some specifics of what that might look like. All people can share in the wealth of the earth. Poverty, hunger, and homelessness will not be tolerated because international standards of human decency will not allow it. Racism and all forms of discrimination, bigotry, and prejudice will be replaced by an all-inclusive spirit of sisterhood and brotherhood. International disputes will be resolved by peaceful conflict resolution and reconciliation of adversaries instead of military power. Love and trust will triumph over fear and hatred. Peace with justice will prevail over war and military conflict. Do you notice anything about this list? Dr. King's list is eminently practical. He doesn't wax poetic about belief in Jesus or salvation in the afterlife. King was a Baptist minister, and his work was undoubtedly rooted in his Christian faith. But his enduring vision doesn't mention beliefs at all. He does mention peace and justice, but only as the opposite of war and conflict, in the aid of sparing the poorest and most vulnerable the horrors of war. King's theology and the theology of Black churches in general has always been much more about what we do in the world. See, because when we talk about beloved community, and when the Reverend Dr. King talked about the beloved community, we're not just talking about our congregation. We're talking about the radical idea that all human beings are intertwined and interconnected and worthy and loved for exactly who they are, without having to live up to the standards of ableism, race, gender, economic status that our society says they must meet in order to have their divinity recognized and respected. King said, "Our goal is to create a beloved community, and this will require a qualitative change in our souls, as well as a quantitative change in our lives." Now, we also know that Dr. King at one time considered the idea of becoming a Unitarian, though he ultimately decided his work would best be done in the Baptist Church. But this notion that real love, real justice can only be done in physical terms, that religion has to effect change in the hard day-to-day realities of the poor, the unhoused, and the powerless, this is a Unitarian and Universalist idea. Not just Unitarian and Universalist, mind. Black religion in this country has always necessarily been oriented toward physical liberation. But our Unitarian Universalist values have always affirmed it. And if you combine the idea of salvation in this lifetime with the thought that all souls are sacred and worthy, then any sincere expression of our faith must be borne out in the messy, gritty, corporeal realities of our society. It must address the real physical needs of marginalized populations. Or, to quote the biblical James, faith without works is dead. Amen. Amen. Now, none of this is meant to shame you into supporting reparations. Rather, I'm saying this to encourage you to view your UU faith as a living, breathing force in the here and now. Salvation in this lifetime means that we must be in the business of restoring black bodies to health and justice. And make no mistake, this is just as much, if not more, about the salvation of white bodies as it is about black ones. The spiritual redemption that King often spoke of wasn't for the vulnerable and the marginalized. It was for the rich and the powerful. Presbyterian minister Nibs Shoup put it succinctly. He said, "No full reparation for slavery can ever be made. We should try anyway." And that's correct. This is a debt that can never fully be repaid. We as a congregation could give infinite amounts of money in reparations, but it still wouldn't bring back the countless lives lost, families broken, and it wouldn't alleviate the suffering of the past. Reparations is just the very beginning of the effort to close that gap. It's a shovel or two of earth into the great chasm that has been dug in order to perpetuate the myth of otherness. But beloveds, it is in the trying, in the effort, in the act of reconnecting in good faith and contrition that we can be collectively made whole again. We don't make reparations in order to end racism. We make reparations today so that we can start to build the new, accountable, life-giving relationship of tomorrow. And on this journey, we will need to continually make the choice to begin anew. Today, reparations. Tomorrow, there will be another new beginning on the path toward reconciliation and justice. But I want to urge you to keep one thing in mind. Yes, First Unitarian has to be very serious and very intentional in the way it goes about raising and giving away this money. But the end of the process, a restoration of relationship, is cause for unspeakable joy. Over the past few weeks, Aaron and Patrick and Mike and others have done the heavy lifting of telling you about their personal journeys toward reparations and the history of the concept here at First Unitarian and the reasons that it's necessary. By the way, I love it when I get here and the heavy lifting has already been done. So I'm here to do the fun part, talking about the joy and liberation that comes from reparations work. Because this isn't just about struggle and oppression. This is about all of us living into our spiritual wholeness. It's about joyful reunion. Our goal, as in Naomi Shihab Nye's airport story, is the forming of community. And like her story, ours begins with the sharing of physical resources. This reunion will come at a cost. It's undeniable that America, and specifically that Unitarian Universalism, owes black communities a huge financial debt. But it also owes them a spiritual debt. The good news, though, is that the paying of this spiritual debt won't result in poverty for us, but rather in spiritual riches that our society has till now not experienced. In her book Emergent Strategy, community organizer Adrienne Marie Brown presents a new framework for doing racial and social justice work. And if you haven't read it yet, please do. She says, if love were the central practice of a new generation of organizers and spiritual leaders, it would have a massive impact on what was considered organizing. If the goal was to increase the love rather than winning or dominating a constant opponent, I think we could actually imagine liberation from constant oppression. We would suddenly be seeing everything we do, everyone we meet, not through the tactical eyes of war, but through eyes of love. We would see that there's no such thing as a blank canvas, an empty land, or a new idea. But everywhere there is complex, ancient, fertile ground full of potential. We would organize with the perspective that there is wisdom and experience and an amazing story in the communities we love. In this vast universe of love and connection and fusion, we need to start seeing our tiny rules about ownership as the insignificant and artificial hurdles that they are. Love and connection and relationship are the reality and should form the basis of and the motivation for our actions. This is the real and sacred goal of reparations. To be so entwined in love with our community and our world that we begin to realize the underlying truth of our faith, which is that the walls of the church are an illusion. And so, the fundamental question isn't ultimately about who gets what and how much, although these are justice issues, no doubt. The important question is, how are we using this money to restore relationship? How are we using this money to deepen our bonds of love with the community around us? You remember what Dr. Cornel West tells us. Justice is what love looks like in public. As pioneers of this kind of proposal in our denomination, we have an opportunity. We have an opportunity to model not just what this course of action might look like financially, but how it can feel. Yes, we as a congregation, and a majority white one, should enter into this relationship as an act of contrition. There are centuries of wrongs that this proposal only barely begins to right. But also, we should enter into this relationship as an act of joy. Joy that after centuries of neglect, false starts, and even good-intentioned acts done without full knowledge or understanding of the needs of communities of color, joy that we as a denomination are finally using our time, talent, and treasure to restore the right relationship that our faith calls us to, in a real, physical, life-giving way. And joy in the new relationships it will bring us. Adrienne Marie Brown goes on, another part of walking this path has been the practice of humility. Enough humility to learn, to be taught, to have teachers. The Sufi poet Hafiz said, "How do I listen to others? As if everyone were my teacher, speaking to me her cherished last words." And in this era where we're embarking on the seemingly monumental task of dismantling white supremacy in our world, I'd argue that giving money to black communities who have been in the struggle against white supremacy for centuries isn't just the right thing to do. It's a smart move. Being in relationship and learning from black leaders and grassroots movements how they care for one another might be the most intelligent thing a majority white congregation can do in this moment. Facilitating the transfer of material wealth in aid of this is an investment in deep and real relationship. One more Adrienne Marie Brown quote for you. She writes about these expressions of interdependence in her poem, Love is an Emergent Process. She says, I stand before my love and let the tendrils unfurl in every direction. I am whole and becoming, Time is one instance examining itself. Mirrors seeing each other and blushing into eternity. I am the ant who carries grandfather to the grave in my palms. You lift the next day's meal, enough for everyone we know. We love in this rhythm, leaving home and returning on the wind. Love can't look away from itself, vibrating in the cell, fluttering breathless into sustained migration. I feel you like dust feels water and remembers the home galaxy. It appears nothing is new, never was, and nothing is truly massive when seen in its wholeness. Until I took this breath, repeating the miracle, I didn't know. I would say it could not have known. I look to the sky, taste the wind on my tongue, and fling myself into the pattern when I forget. When I think the end is near, I realize my insignificance as important as yours and begin to love again. Amen, and may it be so.
Birds flying high, you know how I feel. Sun in the sky, you know how I feel. Breeze drifting on by, you know how I feel. It's a new dawn, it's a new day, it's a new life for me. Yeah, it's a new dawn, it's a new day, it's a new life for me. Ooh. And I'm feeling good. Fish in the sea, you know how I feel. Rebel running free, you know how I feel. Blossom on the tree, you know how I feel. It's a new dawn, it's a new day, it's a new life for me, and I'm feeling good. Dragonfly out in the sun, you know what I mean. Oh, butterflies having fun, you know what I mean. Sleep in peace when the day is done, that's what I mean. In this old world is a new world and a bold world for me. Stars, when you shine, you know how I feel. Sin of the pine, you know how I feel. And freedom is mine. It's a new dawn, it's a new day, it's a new life. Ooh, no, 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 and I'm feeling good.
Thank you so much, Erica. Please speak with me, our closing affirmation. Behind all our differences and beneath our diversity, there is a unity that makes us one and binds us forever together throughout all time, through life and death and the space between the stars. Please join me as you feel comfortable in doing the ASL. And again, I ask you, unfortunately, to refrain from singing.
In this new dawn of a new day, as we embark on this act of creating new ways of being human together, amidst the questions and uncertainty of blazing a new path, may we keep loving relationship at the center of all we do. Our service here has ended. Let our service in the world now continue. Go in peace, First Unitarian. I love you.